Call meeting to order. Roll call, please. Here.
Vice Mayor Walter. Councilmember Woolridge.
Here.
Councilmember Hawkins.
Here.
Councilmember Montano.
Here.
Councilmember Galeen. Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, the first subject is the work session on May 19th, the May 19th election. Lisa?
Mayor Dan, can you turn this down just a little bit? Mayor, members of council, the Budget Committee has been working on a presentation that we are going to be showing as part of your agenda item in new business. There is a calendar of events where we're going to be speaking. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring this item to you and allow you to see it, plus have input on the item prior to us giving out this information. Later tonight we will go through and there will be an agenda item to make a motion to approve this presentation so we can begin giving it. Our first presentation will be to the employees on Wednesday. And so staff is happy to show this to you. It is our May 19th special election background and budget information. And I'm having technical difficulties. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over the agenda, and that's going to be the election. Then Mike is going to take it, and he's going to explain the state-imposed expenditure limitation plus the budget impact. And we're going to talk about the budget development process and do a summary, a recap of both what the election means. And so let's go over the election. The council approved a proposition to be on the May 19th ballot. And what it is it says, shall the town of Florence regain local control and exceed the state-imposed expenditure limitation for fiscal year 2015-16 by $15 million to allow the town of Florence to adopt a budget no greater than the amount that was adopted in fiscal year 2014-15. What this means is, can the town adopt a budget that exceeds the state-imposed expenditure limitation by $15 million in the next fiscal year? And if you have comments or questions about the slides, we can go ahead and take them at the time of that slide rather than go back. And what does a yes vote mean? A yes vote shall have the effect of continuing the existing service by regaining local control of the expenditure of existing revenues by Florence residents. An annual budget will not exceed the state-exposed limitation plus the $15 million. It's estimated at $17 million plus the $15 million makes it $32,363,900. This will not increase or decrease taxes. And a no vote shall have the effect of preventing the local control expenditure of the Florence residents and will require expenditures instead to be limited by the state-imposed expenditure formula based on fiscal year 1979-1980 expenditures, resulting in cuts of existing town services and programs. That means that our annual budget will not exceed the state expenditure limitation, and we estimate that to be at $17,363,900. And again, this does not increase nor decrease taxes. We're going to say does not increase or decrease taxes a number of times, because we need everybody to understand that if you vote yes or if you vote no, it does not make a difference in your taxes. And so we're going to have an election on May 19th. It's going to be a special mail ballot election. Publicity pamphlets will be mailed out after April 20th, but before the mail ballots are elected, you can expect your mail ballots to be arriving by April 23rd, 2015, and the last day to turn in those ballots is election day of May 19th. Ballots will arrive in the mail. They will arrive with instructions. No postage is required to return those ballots, and you can use the U.S. postal system to return ballots. On election day, There are no traditional polling places. Town Florence offices will remain open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., just like a traditional day, in order to assist any citizen who has questions about the election. If you've made a mistake on your election, on your ballot, and you need to have it replaced, Pinal County Voter Registration will do that for you. And if you want to drop off ballots, you drop them off to Pinal County Voter Registration. Any ballot that's received by the Pinal County Voter Registration between the hours of 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. will be verified and counted the next day. And so I'm going to turn over the presentation to Mike, who will explain a little bit more about state-imposed expenditure limitation.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. This section here will kind of go over the background of the state-imposed expenditure limitation. We'll also talk about the budget impact, having to go back to the state limitation, or with the approval of the vote or the election, adding the $15 million to that limitation. Then following that, we'll have a discussion, and Lisa will present that part of it, of the items for consideration as we work through the budget process to meet either the state limitation or if the election passes, the limitation plus the $15 million. And then just what is our budget process, our public input process. So for the background, in 1980, voters approved an amendment to the state constitution that created a system of expenditure limitation for the town as well as other governmental entities. We receive our estimate. It's not an estimate that the town calculates. It's an estimate that we receive from the state, their Economic Estimates Commission. And I've already received a preliminary number, but that number is based on we have a base of 1979, 1980 expenditures, and then that's escalated through the years by population and inflation. Just a little bit of history for this year. The state constitution does allow town voters to approve an alternative to the state-imposed limitation every 4 years. It's an alternative that is used by many municipalities. And since 1980, the town has had 8 elections every 4 years, which have passed by a wide margin from 1982 through 2010. However, on August 26, 2014, our home rule election failed. You can see it's a pretty close margin, 48.25% versus no's of 51.75. However, with the election failing, we are now subject to the state-imposed expenditure limitation for 2 years, for at least the next 2 years, because we cannot go forward with another home rule election vote for 2 years as allowed by the state constitution. So the state constitution allows town voters also to approve exceeding the state-imposed limitation, which is what this election coming up in May is all about. We determined an amount of $15 million to ask voters to approve exceeding the state limitation by. So what does that mean in terms of our budget and the budget impact? First off, I have a slide here that kind of shows the historical expenditure limitations under home rule option versus what the state-imposed expenditure limitation would have been. The red part of each year is the state-imposed limitation and what it would have been each year. However, each year, like I said, we had passed the home rule election. So the blue part is the part that was added because of the passing of the home rule option. I also have 3 of those bars highlighted, and I'll explain that. The green on those bars means that's the state-imposed limitation, and then the yellow part is the amount of the passing of the home rule election and the budgets that were set by town council at the time. So our total budget, or our total alternative expenditure limitation, is the total of those 2 colors. But in those 2 years, looking at 2016, you can see the green there. The state-imposed limitation is, again, set about $17 million, and the yellow is the $15 million that's added to that for 2016. Now, if you draw a line across from the 2016, you can see that's right about, if this election passes, that's right about where we would be or where we were in 2006. So if the election passes again, our budget level and we budget that, our budget level will be about 32 million, which is about the 2006 level. Now, if the election fails and our budget is held at the state-imposed limitation, it would be 17 million. And just drawing a line across roughly, you'd see that we'd be around the 2001 levels of budget, what we were budgeting in 2001. Just under the home rule election, because we're able to determine our budget locally or by the voters here, and while we were under home rule option, we were able to accomplish several capital projects. For example, just listing some that were from fiscal year 2013-14. See the fire station number 2 and the police substation in Anthem. Plant Road was paved. Florence Gardens, curb gutter sidewalk improvements phase 3. Moving on, Padilla Park, Main Street Park improvements, and the Brunacant rehabilitation. Also this year, this current fiscal year, 2014-15, you see we're working on the new library, aquatic center, and sports recreation fields. Main Street overlay improvements and the northern extension will be coming. Curb and gutter street improvements by Florence High School. The Hunt Highway curve at Anthem, and also some utility improvements. The point of this slide is to show you that if we were under the state-imposed limitation for this year and last year or any of those other years, a lot of this stuff would not be getting done. Recent accomplishments also in terms of services, we increased the number of firefighters on a truck from 3 to 4 in Anthem. We added a school resource crime prevention officer position. We also added a before and after school program in Anthem. And then with the new facility come on board, enhanced library recreational programming opportunities. And again, that's just to show that these are things that we're able to accomplish by being able to set our own budget rather than being held back at the state-imposed limitation. I also wanted to add that anytime we do the budget, whenever we prepare the town's budget, and we have these expenditures that yes, they exceed the state limitation, we're spending revenue that actually exists, revenue that we have. And we do this with a balanced budget, which is required by the state. And what that means is revenue must be greater than or equal to budgeted expenditures. So the estimated state-imposed expenditure limitation, again, this is a number that I get from the state's Economic Estimates Commission. They preliminary gave us a number of $17,363,900. That's a significant, as you could see from the previous slides, a significant reduction to the town's budget. It's set by state formula and not town residents. If we do happen to exceed the state limitation, there are hefty penalties that are given to the town if we exceed it. And again, I just wanted to point out, this is very important, expenditure limitation does not impact revenues at all. That's what it is, expenditure limitation. The taxes do not increase or decrease, and town revenues will not increase or decrease either. Here's a slide showing the total town budget based on the 2014-15 fiscal year approved budget, and plus the capital improvement plan, about $29.7, $29.8 million. That's what the state limitation will take out of our budget. You can see it cuts out about 42% of that estimated budget, just for example. And here's the operating side. That's previous slide included capital projects. This one is totally town operations and the services that we provide. You can see there's about a $19 million budget in operations for fiscal year 14-15. And you can see the piece of the pie that is an estimate of what the budget reduction would have to be to operating services. It takes out about 13% or $2.4 million out of the $19 million. Just to kind of go over the services that are in the town budget, we'll explain in the town operating budget. We'll explain that what we do are the services that we provide to the citizens: utilities, water, sewer, sanitation, public safety, which is police and fire, and parks and recreation, library, and also community development. And then, of course, the administration and the support that supports all of the services that we provide. With that, I'll turn it over to Lisa.
So how are we going to get there? Your Budget Committee has been working hard to make recommendations to the council on ways to possibly get there, and so far, this is what they've come up with and what is going to be presented to the public. As you've known at several meetings in the past that you've had, the manager has stated that it would mean that no capital expenditures would occur in the next fiscal year, excluding those that were HERF revenue, capital expenditures, or those that we did through a bond, revenue bonds, or another type of bonds. And that's the way we could keep our capital programs going. But this budget does not include any capital expenditures. And to completely outsource sanitation services, that means to step away from our RAD contract and to not have the town of Florence enter into a contract with RAD. And the other step would be to eliminate the bolt trash and the landfill transfer station services. We also are proposing, through the Budget Committee, a reduction in library hours from 55 to 40. Mind you that these recommendations are only if the election fails. It's worst case scenario. Eliminate before and after school program at both K-8s. And eliminate special events. This is not all special events, but almost all major special events. Eliminate the transitional response vehicle. That's our TRV unit that services the downtown area, Caliente, and Florence Gardens. And reducing the number of firefighters on the fire truck in Anthem back from 4 to 3. We'll remind you that we are servicing them right now through a grant, so that would be at the time that the grant expires. And that is the one thing we talked about when we accepted that grant, that if the town could not fiscally support those positions, that we would be in a position to where we would look at reducing the service levels. Eliminate a crime prevention officer or school resource officer positions. Reduce the aquatic center seasonal and operational hours. Eliminate funding for the public arts program. You would still have a board or commission. They would just not have any funding to do art programming. Reduce police dispatchers, street maintenance, and building inspections. The reason why these are actually pinpointed in the presentation is because they are positions that the city is currently holding. And then on top of it, we would also be looking at a reduction in workforce to make up that. These are how the Budget Committee has eliminated the monies necessary to meet the needs of the town of Florence, but we also know that the council may have additional things that they would like us to consider, or they may want to talk about those programs more. So we do have a slide available, that's another slide away, to talk about that. So under consideration, if the budget does pass, if the election does pass, then what the town is we're doing is we're basically holding expenditures to fiscal year 2013-14 expenditures, and we will have capital projects. The capital projects that are included are the East Street pavement program, the Felix Road and Highway intersections, the Franklin Road improvements, the Merle Ranch parking resurfacing, Ruggles Street microsill, Attaway Road and Highway intersection improvements, Florence Gardens Phase 4, which will be curb, concrete, and pavement, Hunt Highway, American Way to Franklin Road resurfacing, and high school area pavement, curb, and gutter, elementary school area road improvements, and utility infrastructure improvements. If you have any questions on those projects, I have narratives on those projects. We can discuss them. I also have time lanes available if council is interested in learning more about any of those projects. Then for the the work session only, those items that were discussed are for budget and budget development. You have to remember that as part of this process, after the election either passes or fails, staff comes back to council to go through the budget process. That budget process has a public participation component within it. It will give your public a chance to talk about areas that they are concerned about, and it will also give council the opportunity to either go with the recommendations that the Budget Committee is putting forward or to make different recommendations. But this is the presentation that we are scheduled to begin talking about, so we want to make sure that council is comfortable with us going out and saying that this is the way that we're going to do things. Is there any changes in the projects or any questions you have on the projects or eliminations at this time?
Bill?
Well, I'm just wondering, do you know how many cities or towns or counties or college districts that have operated operated without home rule? In other words, on the state's limitation?
I can pull together a League of Arizona Cities study that shows the number that operate without expenditure limitation. I can tell you that while I was at the Government Financiers Officers Association doing a talk about home rule and what happens when it fails, there were several members of the financial community that came up to me and told me that in the next several years it will be the first time that they're ever going and seeking out a home rule option, because at that time they stated that their expenditures have thus been at a level to where they could afford to, and now they're currently starting to do capital projects and other things that would require them to go outside that box and expend additional revenues. If you would like to see that report, I'd be happy to contact the League to see if they have it. Unless Mike, is that
Well,
something-
basically what I'm wondering is how many other communities have voted it down like we did? I mean,
I will tell you, if you remember back a few years ago, the biggest one that made the news was the city of Tucson. The city of Tucson lost their home rule election, and what you saw transportation strikes. You saw them close, talk about closing fire stations. You saw them talk about closing substations for police department. They talked about closing the transportation system because they have a transportation system that the city provides. Those of us that are election junkies or financial junkies for municipalities, we watched that for about a year play out in the news, and they did go through a special election, and they did get that to pass, and it was successful for them. What that means for Florence, I don't know. Like everyone watched Tucson, everyone's watching us right now to see what happens in the town of Florence. It's hard to go from being named the #1 city on the rise to being the #1 city about to lose your financial funding.
well, I just wondering, if we need to make a point of that to let people know that, I don't think there's any organization that could operate under the rules of the state.
There are organizations, and I would be happy to get that list together, because I can't speak on that at the top of my head, but there are organizations that operate within the expenditure limitation.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's all I have.
Becky? Yeah. Do you have anything? No. All right.
No.
Don?
No.
The school resource officer, is that a position that's currently filled right now or not?
Go ahead, Chief.
The school resource officer / crime prevention officer is, Officer Palmer does that now, and he does both. He does the schools part-time, and then he goes out and does business surveys for security and also home security surveys for all of our residents, as well as develop other crime prevention programs for our community. And what we would do is put him back in patrol.
Okay, so his employment won't be impacted at all.
His employment won't. The open position that we have now that's on hold.
Okay.
I mentioned within the presentation that we do have positions that are open right now. We're currently freezing. The manager is making a recommendation on each position as they come available on whether or not they will be filled or not.
And then, Fire Chief Zick, what would be the benefits of keeping battalion chiefs versus the foreman on a fire truck?
Oh, can I speak for a minute? The personnel section that comes underneath the where it mentions that there'll be 10 other positions, those positions are not being discussed at this time what other positions they may be, are not being discussed at this time.
There will be a recommendation coming forward, Councilmember Walters, Mayor, Council. Those additional 10 positions most of them are going to be administrative, and there will be some management in those areas too. And that'll be determined at a later date.
Okay.
Go back to the slide showing the progression of our budget.
I'm assuming that that is the side you would like to see,
Yes.
sir?
It shows that this is the overall town budget for 2014-15. Is it 60-some million dollars?
Can you repeat the question?
Under year 2015, is that 2014-2015 budget or 2015-2016 budget?
Under 2015, that's the current budget that we're in right now, 2014-15.
Okay, and so we're running a $66 million budget this year.
That's correct.
And we've only asked for a $15 million increase over the state limit of expenditures.
That's correct, which would put us at 32 million, or about half of what the budget is this year.
What is the difference, and how can we, I mean, we're coming down to 10 years ago budget figures. How did we come up with the $15 million number?
$15 million was, it was to continue the capital project program and also to account for any inflationary type increases to the 2014-15 budget.
And this was done by staff, not by council, correct?
Correct.
Well, and just to remind you of the way that we budgeted in the past, and Councilmember Gulin could speak to this as well. That says home rule versus state exposed expenditure limitations and historical expenditure limitations. So when we were setting our expenditure limitation and going through council, they did set the expenditure limitation to allow the projects that were on the books to be able to be completed. And if you had a line up there showing actual versus the expenditure limitation, you would see that they're basically in line with the 2016 number. Is that not correct, Mike? Or Becky?
Yes.
Whenever you're calculating expenditure limitation, you're trying to
I don't think her mic is on.
you're planning a year in advance, and you're trying to account for every single expenditure, capital project that you have that you're looking at. These may or may not occur. You'll see a expenditure limitation. I think one year I had a $43 million one, probably the highest one I ever had. That included all of our capital that we discussed with the managers, expenditures we anticipated. That doesn't mean that you're going to spend that amount of money. If you look at the actual expenditures over the years, they did not reach that amount. We're working this time on a very slim budget, the most necessary items that are needed in capital and expenditure.
And if you remember right, when we brought that ballot language back to council, Mr. Farina and Mr. Montoya did a presentation, and it showed that $15 million, and that's how that $15 million got into the election materials and into the call to the election.
So what you're saying is that we're going to be able to get by with half the budget we had this year.
Mayor and Council, the budget this year is over $60 million. Number one, because of the $13 million project that we're doing, which isn't a normal cost. It also includes many other capital projects as well. The home rule option also includes debt service, HERF expenditures, which are exempt from the state-imposed limitation. Also in the $60 million were carryover funds from prior year projects that were started but not completed. So in the fiscal year 2015-2016, carryovers will not be allowed.
That's why you're seeing so many projects completed in this fiscal year.
What's that?
That's why you're seeing so many projects completed in this fiscal year. The manager has us working hard to make sure that every project that we have started, that if possible, they will be completed by the end of this fiscal year.
I would have liked, personally, I'd like to have seen some numbers on the consideration for budget reduction and figure out how that number was acquired. You know, you're showing me a lot of things that we're gonna cut out, but you don't show me a total amount of dollars that's being saved by cutting those positions out.
I can go through them really quickly. I have notes to where they have given me notes. I'd be happy to do that.
Well,
And we can,
you know, the reductions, if this was to fail, how much does that total out?
Mike, do you have the total, or do you want me to go through my list?
If the election fails, how much is the reduction?
Yes, how much, you've got all these things, the budget impact here, consideration for budget reduction if election fails.
I believe the number was,
It's close to $2.5 million. You take your $15 million from the capital improvements that would not be happening unless there was a budget, and then we've got close to $2.5 million that would be coming directly through the operating budget oh, I've got the thing, so let's go back and look here.
Mayor and Council, at a previous study session, I presented a spreadsheet that did show the reduction using 2014-15, the 2014-15 budget as the base, and then also the capital improvement program. And the amount that would need to be cut that I presented at the time was around a little over $12 million in both operating and capital expenditures.
So if you look at the amount of the projects that we presented, they are basically the summary of those are, when you add them all together, it equals that amount of the budget reduction. That's the 13% we have to come up with. Correct, Mike?
That 13% of this year's budget or the projected budget for 2016?
That is the estimated reduction in the town's budget if we fail. Correct, Mike?
That's if we decide to eliminate all capital projects and then the remainder from operations.
I was noticing on the budget impact for items when the election does pass. I'm not going to be negative. I'm going to be positive that it's going to pass. I see nothing to do, the Main Street program, I thought we were going to have that completed, and maybe Jess can address that as far as where we're at on getting the streetscape and everything like that done.
And that's a grant program, so I don't believe that we listed grant programs, correct, Mike? Because those grant programs are excluded from our budget.
Okay.
But Jess can speak to that.
Yeah, that's correct, because it's being paid for through grant funds, an amount of about $350,000. It won't be part of the expenditure limitation. Grants, HERF dollars, and other things are part of that package. But we are still on track to start and finish that construction in calendar year 2015.
Okay. I just take a look at this one, and I'll be very honest with you. It without further explanation, that the scale that we showed shows we're going to be able to do, if it passes even, when it passes, we're going to be able to accomplish quite a bit with about half the budget we have for this year, going back to 2006 budget. And before any of those frozen positions are unfrozen, I think that needs to be brought back to council before they're filled. If you have desires to fill them, I think that needs to come to the council, even when this passes. Because it seems like we've been able to do without and still progress and not get behind. And I would like to see that. I can't speak for the council, but I think that my reasoning is to make sure that we're not filling positions just to fill positions and hire somebody. let's have a need for them, that they need to be here, that we don't have any other way to do it.
Well, if this passes, we will have to come back with a whole new budget, right?
Right.
And so we can make sure when we approve that budget.
John, yeah, and sometimes government we grow too darn fast. And then we end up in a situation where we have to come back later and riff people.
I know.
Mayor Rankin, I'd like to remind you of how our budget process works. As you'll recall, that as part of the budget, we do adopt a resolution that sets forth our salary compensation scale as well as the positions that work for the town of Florence. At that time, you'll be able to look at those positions and be able to comment on that resolution that we do present. And we do that annually with the budget process and have done for years.
Thank you for reminding me of something I've been doing for quite a few years.
I know, sir.
I'm trying to make a point that sometimes staff, administration,
yes, sir,
hires people just for the whim of it sounds good or whatever. It's time for government to pull its bootstraps and take a look at what we're doing. And if we don't need those positions, let's don't even put them into consideration. That's what I was getting at. And I think that's a big savings of money as we go along. We didn't, when the 2008 recession hit, because of smart planning on behalf of the council and staff, we did not go through a rifting procedure where people lost their jobs. But we planned for what we were doing, because we had a lot of, what do we have in your department, Mark? 3 people or 3 positions that we didn't fill at that time? They were budgeted for if we needed them. But when in recession, and Becky, you remember that. And we didn't have to lay anybody off. And I'd rather take a whipping than have to lay somebody off and they lose their income for their family.
I agree with you, sir.
And I don't want to do anything to hurt the progress of this community is the way we've been going here the last couple of years as far as getting projects done, improving the quality of life of the people here. It's a sad thing that it did not pass. Maybe we didn't explain it right the first time. Maybe I didn't do a good job on when I did go around and talk to people. But I think the citizens of Florence need to know that the council up here is going to sit and watch this thing very closely, that, it's very important to the community that we get this passed this time around. And that they need to come, if there's questions that they have about it, they need to come to the management or come to each of us council members personally or individually, come to a council meeting and ask questions about it. But we need to, I don't want to use the word educate. I think educate can be a good word and it can be a bad word. At my age, I learn all the time, but I don't like to be educated. I like to be informed. And I'd rather inform the people of what the situation is.
So how do you think we're presenting? Do you like the presentation? Does it come across good? Are we giving enough information?
I think maybe sometimes there's too much information that people don't understand. If you take a look at those pie charts or where you took out like that one, I'm really not sure what the heck that means. And I don't know if every citizen out there would. I mean, that's just my opinion, but
to me, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I sort of like that because that gives you
I
a
think
picture of you.
well,
Very
but the way
visual.
I couldn't hear Lisa when she was
Explaining it.
explaining it. I think the explanation, the chart be okay if we have a little bit better explanation on it as to what actually is going on when you're talking about that, cutting that pie in pieces.
That as well as the budget impact chart on the graph that you have.
Yeah.
That is very informative as far as where we're sitting and where we were and how we've graduated and improved, and now all of a sudden we have a reduction.
And I think that, if you take a look at that chart, go to that, not that one, your pie on your budget impact you're talking about the big one, Ruben?
Yes.
It shows all the departments?
No, that one he was just on. That one.
Well, okay, now, I guess the capital improvement plan. That's just on capital improvement. That's not on the total budget, correct?
That's the total budget, including capital improvement. It's the
Including,
total, that number, the $29.8 million is based on the 2014-15 fiscal year budget and the planned projects for 2015-16 from the capital improvement program.
okay.
So I think one thing we have to look at in trying to put this out is, in the last 3-4 years, the Florence Unified School District has failed on 3 attempts for an override on their maintenance and operation fund. Recently, the Pinal County decided to give up a contract with ICE Customs Enforcement, or what they consider Immigration Custom Enforcement, that cost 112 jobs of employees from the community. Why do I know? Because I was number 113 that was let go. That's important because it affects families. It isn't the employee. It's the community that's going to suffer from it. It's what you're looking at to say, if we can't pass this and the school needs an additional override, nobody could vote on it because they don't have money to pay for an override. This doesn't cost anything. Our biggest effort right now is to go out and try and get this to pass. I think if we go into a ripple effect, it will be a tsunami to the community as far as additional cuts that we would have to do. So that's something we have to look at and make sure we understand and get it out there to the people that this really needs to pass. Doesn't cost them anything. There aren't any taxes, but it's to show that we're trying to make an effort to improve.
Excuse me. Can I go ahead and speak? Reuben, you're absolutely right. We have to remember that this is a special election, not a budget override. Budget override means that taxes will be increased. Our taxes, our fees, everything else is going to remain the same. The town is still going to continue to collect money. Its problem is it will not be able to spend it nor furnish the services at the same level that they had been furnished at.
And I think that's one of the most important things is the level of service we're providing. As I go around to other towns and I take a look at our surrounding communities around the state, we're in pretty good shape. And we don't want to go backwards.
Yes.
We want to, I hate to say stay status quo, which we may end up having to do for a little while, but we want to be going forward and progressing forward. And the one-time budget expenditures in this year's budget won't be coming up again. It's not progress. Do we have anything in the budget for next year in the 2016, any one-time expenditures, capital projects?
Mayor and Council, the $32 million capital projects, the ones that were under the slide considerations for if the election passes, those would be under consideration during the budget process for the 2015-16 budget.
And those are just one-year projects, they're not?
Some of them are 2-year projects.
Okay. Well, we got to get it done, folks. And staff, and I think it's important to note that staff cannot go out and ask the citizens to vote. They can go out and inform the public of the situation that we're facing now. And that's why I think it's imperative, and I'm sorry I missed the one Saturday, that we try to attend as many of these meetings that Lisa has set up with different organizations so that we can, after the presentation is done, that we can ask some questions and ask the people to come out and support our process.
We're almost through with our presentation. Mike, do you want to go over?
Lisa touched on this as she was going through the presentation, but this slide here just explains the budget process. I think the key thing here is to tell the public that it is a public process. There are several different times during the budget process where the public is invited. We have either a $17 million budget or a $32 million budget next year. However, when we're doing the budget and getting it approved before council, the public is invited, and you can see up there in all capital letters, the times when that occurs. So that's just to explain to them the budget process, and although we're given an amount, we still need to go through a budget process, a public budget process.
Okay. Junior, the council member have anything else?
Well,
Go ahead, Bill.
maybe, let them know that my understanding is we've never gone over budget in the last, 15, 20, 30 years or something.
I've
I mean,
never known of the town of Florence exceeding their budget.
that we've ever
expenditure
run in the
position.
red or been, I'm just saying that might be something to let them know if they think we're out of hand. I mean, there's no precedent setting that we've been running over budget, and we might want to make that a point during the presentation.
I'll just confirm that from studying past council minutes and being the finance director myself, that we have never exceeded our expenditure limitation. Not only that, we've always worked with a balanced budget, had enough revenues and fund balance to cover every expenditure that we had.
There were some tight times.
Yes, tight, but we did what we had to do to accomplish the task. You do more with less, you cut back. Just because you're budgeted a certain amount in your budget does not mean that you have to spend it. That means that you spend what is necessary to function in your department.
Well,
And
over the years, we've built up quite a reserve, so.
Yeah, and I
just think that's a good point, maybe.
I think if we take a look at government bill as we've gone around, it was always the impression if you're budgeted the money, you better spend every bit of it you can or you won't get anything next year. And that philosophy has never worked with me. So anything else from the council? This time I'm going to open it up to the public. If anybody from the public would like to come, I'd like to hear what you have to say after seeing the presentation tonight.
I gave you that thinking you were going to do a regular call to the public.
That's for later tonight
No,
or for now?
this will address something that has just been said, but I didn't know you were going to open it up, Tom. Denise Kollert, Florence Gardens. I want to disagree with one statement that was made about taxes and fees. If the contract with RAD is not renewed, my rubbish is going to go up twice as what it is now, because it went down in half when you guys contracted with. So that's one spot I know for sure my expenses are going to go up. So there are going to be some things, if you have to cut things out, that are going to affect us, the population's pocketbook. And I think that is something that, don't say no the taxes, you can say no raising of taxes or lowering of taxes. But there are going to be some services that we're getting now that we're paying for that are going to go up in price.
I agree.
Like I said, that rubbish pickup is cut in half to what we were paying before. And that's a big issue when you're living out there on an income that's limited. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Any other? Okay, we're running just a little bit high on this, but before we start the regular meeting, let's take a recess.
Okay, sir.
Next item is a moment of silence, followed with a pledge of allegiance. As we do our moment of silence tonight, think of all the men and women overseas, away from their families, fighting to defend this country. Also, try to keep in mind this council so that we do the right decisions for you, the citizens of our community. Thank you. Becky, will you lead us? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I forgot to say we should thank whoever we're going to pray to for the rain we received today. Beautiful rain. No flooding, nice soaking in rain. This is the first call to the public for public comment on issues within the jurisdiction of the town council. Council rules limit public comment to 3 minutes. Council members may respond to criticism made by those commenting, may ask staff to review a matter raised, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the council shall not discuss or take any action on any matter during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. We've asked people to fill out speaker cards. I have none. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? If this, come forward.
Hi, good evening, and I'm really nervous because...
You need to state your name.
Okay.
And where you live.
My name is Deborah Croft, and I live in the apartments that are on Stewart and DeSoto, and Florence Heights is right behind me, and the 79 is on the side. You know, we're right where the county police cars get fixed.
Right.
Okay?
And speak into the mic because you are going local over television.
Oh.
Don't get nervous.
There's two things, I guess, I want to bring up. And the first one is voting in this town. I work for the elections office, and there is probably a couple hundred, if more people that do not know about anything in this town that's being voted on. I did not know any of the people up there. I don't know anybody. And I came down here as a senior citizen that's got some brains, and I tried to find out, and I got told that that was not allowed to be done, or they couldn't give me any information because it's against the law. And
information on what?
Who was running for offices.
Okay.
I don't know any of these people. I barely know you, but I've shook your hand at grand openings. So, I've also worked in this town. The Nazarene Church used to own the antique store and the thrift store, and I ran those in 2012 and shut it down in 2012. And I also work at the Fud Shop. I've helped out there, and I've just volunteered for the library, and I also volunteer for the police department. So I think I'm pretty well ingrained in doing things for my town. That's important to me. And the sad part of that is this home rule. Let me tell you what I read. I read that this was, if I voted yes, it was going to give you people up there all the right to do whatever you wanted to do with my money. And you were just going to take it away, and you were just going to do whatever you wanted. And that's what I read. You know, and I have college degrees, and I have lots of things, but that's exactly how it read. I then kind of polled everybody in my little apartment complex. My sister who lives in Anthem, my daughter who lives in Anthem, and nobody knew the answer to that. They thought, if they're going to take my money, I'm voting no. And I think that's terrible, because since then, and since I read the article you wrote in the paper, that I had no idea what that money was actually for. I didn't even know what this home rule was about. I still didn't know. And that's why it was voted down. I could probably walk down the street and tell you the people in Groves who voted no. If you need something from us in this darling little community that I just love, and I've been here since 2007, then you need to make us informed. This town informs nobody. I still couldn't tell any of you who you are sitting up there, and you're my town council. I wouldn't know where to go. I don't even know where you live, or where you sit, what your phone numbers are, how to get a hold of you. I know nothing. And then I got told, look online. I looked online for all of you and couldn't find anything. How are we going to vote appropriately if we can't have the information? This thing, this home rule, is going to go down in a handbasket if you don't get the word out to the people that live way over on my side. Half of these people in this town wait months and months to pick up their mail up here. Either they don't have a ride, either they don't care because it's all junk mail, and you can't even find our election ballots because they're pure white along with all the other junk mail. And where do they end up? In the trash, in those bins. You know, you got to make them noticeable. You got to put big words on them. You know, we have an elderly crowd down here who doesn't have mail delivered to their boxes as an anthem. We don't know. I don't know. The only reason why I know there was a meeting tonight was this nice gentleman was driving through my complex, stopped and talked to my girlfriend who was outside, and I walked up to her to give her her cell phone, and she introduced me to him. That's the only way I even knew there was a town meeting tonight. And I have to tell you, you can tell me all this. I do not have a television because I'm forced to buy Cox cable, and nobody can afford it. So I can't see it on TV. There's nothing in my mail. Trust me, I go through my mail. There's nothing in my mail that tells me anything about any of you people up there. Not one thing. Nor have I seen anything up to today that tells me that there's this vote going on for my town. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but that's important to me. If I want $12 million more somewhere, then somebody needs to tell me that I need to vote for it and what this means. What it means. How can you just sit there and just not notify half downtown that don't get mail? And the farmers don't even come in but once a month. So you're going to give us something that's a week ahead of time and think it's going to go? It's not going to go. And I can't get those people signed up to even get mail-in votes because it's against the law. I can't go door to door. I can't put a note up that says if you want to vote, the papers are in my office, pick one up, fill it out, take it back to the office, and I'll bring them down here. And I can't even do that. So how are you going to get the vote? How are you going to do this? We can't afford to buy the newspaper. We can't afford to watch TV. There's a whole, we don't get our mail like every day.
I'm going to have to stop you. You had 3 minutes, and
I
exceeded that. Thank you for coming tonight.
Okay.
My name is Bruce Finstermaker. I'm on the Planning and Zoning. I live at 3625 North Princeton Court in Florence here, and I was driving through her apartment complex, and I told her, I said, this is really nice. It's clean. There's no painting on the walls. The residents here have pride in their neighborhood. I said, you know, we have a thing coming up on a vote on May 19th. I said, do you know anything about it? And she said, no. And we talked to other residents in there, and I thought, you know what, Debbie had never came to a town council meeting before, so tonight's her first night. So she's got a lot of guts to stand up here and talk to you and stuff. But she's got a lot of fire in her heart, and she wants to better this town, our town. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no movement, I'll call close call to the public. Consent agenda.
Item 7, consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be handled by a single vote as part of the consent agenda unless a council member or a member of the public objects at the time the agenda item is called. Item A, authorization to purchase a 2015 Veermer vacuum excavator from Veermer Sales Southwest in an amount not to exceed $65,403.88. Item B, recommendation of approval to the Arizona Department of Liquor License and Control on the Pinal County Mounted Posse's application for a special event liquor license for Road to Country Thunder event on April 4th, 2015. Item C, recommendation and approval to the Arizona Department of Liquor License and Control on Cocopelli Moon Saloon's application for a temporary extension of premises patio permit. This is also for the Road to Country Thunder on April 4th, 2015. Item D, approval to suspend the Town of Florence special event vendor permit rules and farmer market rules for the Road to Country Thunder event and to allow the 100 Club to coordinate vendors for a fundraiser on April 4th, 2015. And item E, which is the warrant register, is going to be removed from the consent agenda and it will be added to the next meeting in March. Mayor, member of council, that is your consent agenda.
Does any member of the council have anything else they'd like taken off the consent agenda?
Yes, I'd like to take A off.
A? Any others? Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, removing item E until the next council meeting and item A at this time.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with exceptions of item A and E. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Item A.
Yeah, I had a,
Hang tight.
yeah.
Go ahead, Bill.
Did I understand you to say until the next meeting?
Next count.
Item,
Why would we?
pull the warrant registry.
Yeah, why?
That's the way that it was read by Lisa. For some corrections that need to be made.
Staff has pulled the warrant register for consideration at this time.
That's all I have. I'm just wondering.
Okay, so again, we've taken item A and E off. We have a yea vote with the exceptions of item A and E. All opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Item A.
Okay, my question is, what is a vacuum extractor? Or what it's called? Excavator? What is that?
Mr. Mitchell will address that question for you.
Mayor, members of the council, good evening. It's a piece of equipment we use in the utilities department, namely water. It allows us to dig when we have a water break, and probably the best example is Florence Gardens, Caliente, or something where you have all of those complexes very close together. It allows us to go in and actually excavate the area where the water break is and allows us then to repair. And as you can see in the staff report, the town over the last number of years has spent considerable money on rental equipment and so on and so forth. And we felt that now was probably the time to cut down on some of our rental costs and purchase of a piece of equipment. So it's used in excavation. Water is jetted into the hole and the vacuum pulls it out and it stores it and allows the guys to get in there and work in isolated areas.
Well,
Go ahead.
I've operated them before. I wanted to say the main thing is if you hit a telephone line or a gas line or whatever, you're jetting water down in there. It melts the dirt basically. The vacuum sucks the dirt and the water out. Then they go and they dump that and then they come back and keep going. But it keeps you from hitting cables and you know, crucial utilities that if you were using a backhoe, you could tear them up real easy. It's just a real safe way of doing things and a very efficient.
Okay, well, thank you. I was just curious. I never heard of that before, so don't have one of those at my house.
Well, if you did, we could borrow it and not have to buy one. Any other discussion on this item? Need a motion?
I make a motion that we approve item A.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda item A. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
New business, item A, discussion approval, disapproval of change order with Apache Underground and Excavation for water line improvements in the Turner subdivision in an amount not to exceed $137,147.25. Mr. Mitchell?
Mayor, members of the council, this is the project that council approved. It's north of the high school, Willow Central 22nd. Been a lot of work in the area lately, putting in new concrete curb gutter, valley gutters. When the contractor was installing the concrete improvements, we noted that the existing road grade was quite high. And the transition between the existing road grade to the gutter, in my estimation, would not work. It would be much too steep. I thought there may very well be a safety issue. So I looked at our budget, and we have had in the budget for many years, I'm not sure how many, the Adamsville water line, sewer line, street improvement project, of which the Turner subdivision was a part of. So I talked with administration. I said now is the opportunity to do a change order with DVA, the contractor who was doing the concrete improvements, to bring it down to grade, install the water that is necessary in that subdivision, and then we will come back and have DBA repave those streets. So basically, working with Jared Baxter, the engineer of the project, we decided let's implement that portion of your plan. Let's bring it down to proper grade. Let's do the installation, and then in the future, staff will be back to finish the balance of the Adamsville project. So in a nutshell, that's why we're here tonight. Apache Underground is installing the water line in Bailey and 12th Street, and they're about ready to wrap up. We pressure tested. The water last week was us, not the rain this week, so there's been a lot of water in the gutter. But we felt it was important and a viable solution to give them a change order to move from Bailey over to this area to install the water improvements. And so we're here asking for a change order for that work.
Do you member of the council have any questions, John? Okay, hearing none, need a motion?
Make a motion to approve the change order with Apache Underground and Excavation for water line improvements in the Turner subdivision for the amount not to exceed $137,147.25.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a change order with Apache Underground Excavation for water line improvements in the Turner subdivision in an amount not to exceed $137,147.25. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item B, discussion approval or disapproval affirming the February 5th, 2015 recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the Town of Florence Territory Square signage design review application by approving attached option 1. Mr. Eckhoff will be handling this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I apologize, I have a cold this evening, but I'll try and make this as brief as I can. We had a signage request for the new Library and Aquatic Center project come forward. The architect prepared the concepts for the signage for the project. Staff reviewed them, supported their designs with some modifications along the way. That package went to the Planning and Zoning Commission. They did recommend approval. There was one vote to not approve it that night, but subsequently we've met with that member, and he does actually support. So we provided some supplemental information So essentially, you have unanimous support from the Planning and Zoning Commission on the signage. But I understand there was a citizen that was concerned. Mostly the issue here is about the orientation of a couple of the signs. So there are a few signs on the site. Number one, along the Main Street frontage, there will be this beautiful Town of Florence sign, metal letters that will sit on a gabion wall parallel to Main Street, so real attractive for the gateway element of the project. Also along Main Street, you're going to see the building on the sign that you can, on the wall facing Main Street, and here it's enlarged. So no issues presented at all with these two signs. The issues that we did encounter, in particular with the citizen, would be the signs along the next to the doorway of the library and the doorway of the aquatic center. So moving along. There's also directional signage that will be on the site, and as you can see with all these signs, they're carrying forward the building materials, elements, and colors and so forth from the building. So they will complement it. Building addresses on all the buildings, of course. This is the entrance to the library, and option one is what the Planning and Zoning staff of the Planning and Zoning Commission approve. All the signs will be lit. It depends on the orientation of the sign. They're either going to be lit from LED lighting at the bottom of the sign or at the top of the sign, again, depending on the orientation of the lighting, on the effectiveness of the lighting. But it will be energy efficient LED lighting that will meet dark sky requirements. So this is the entrance to the library. That's option one. Option two would take the same sign, change the orientation of letters, but to do that, obviously, you have to shrink the letters quite a bit. And then option three, you would change the orientation of the whole panel and the lettering, which is really very traditional look. But of course, the building is a very unique building. We're trying to come up with signage that would match the character and uniqueness of the building. Same thing applies over at the Aquatic Center. You have option one, which has been supported by staff of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And then option two, following the same formula, the letters will go downward. Again, makes the letters quite small. And then three would be your horizontal alignment. There's also signage for the restrooms and the addresses that are building addresses. Again, the lettering sign that's along Main Street. And then I wanted to show you that signage can be any orientation that you'd like it to be. It can be a traditional horizontal alignment, but you can also do vertically aligned signs, and you can read it from top down or from bottom up. So clearly the ones on the bottom, Dr. A.J. Chandler, Downtown Chandler, those are read in the same orientation, and you can see a few other examples in that slide that go that way. So again, a sign really is, number one, it's something to tell you where you are and where you're arriving, but it also is an artistic element. And the building is very unique and has a very creative sense of architecture, and the signage was intended to go along with that feeling. So these were a couple of the images that were presented back in October, and you can see that we did not deviate from the signs that we've been showing ever since we've known that there were, the general idea for the signage. This is the type of signage that we've had on the building. So just want to let you know that we've had that consistency all along the way. But our recommendation is to affirm the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We believe that they made the right decision on this, and the signs are attractive and are effective. And the next choice would probably be to go to option three. I think option two, the lettering just gets too small to have any impact. I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Any questions, Mark?
So Mark, right now you have a combination of traditional and also for an alternative for aesthetic purposes, correct?
Absolutely. Mayor and Council, three with this orientation of the panel and the letters definitely is more of a traditional sign, but it's still a very attractive, effective sign. It's still on the same type of background panel, and the letters are still designed to complement the materials on the roofing. So one and three both work. I feel like the option one, though, is just definitely a little bit more unique and a little bit more creative.
You know, I like the recommendation that the Planning and Zoning Commission come out with. I like it a little bit different. Maybe I'm a little bit different, but.
I like option 3.
And I like option 1. I mean, and that's what our Planning and Zoning Commission came out with a recommendation on it, right?
For option 1, yes.
Well, I think option 3 is more in line with our historical town. You know, we keep talking about we want to promote our historical downtown area, and I don't think we want to go too modern, even though the building is of a modern design. And we talked about the exterior of the building, the colors and all matching the downtown historic district. So that's just my opinion.
Okay, you know, John, and I agree to a certain degree a bit, but this is a new part of town. It's not in the historical district. It's in conjunction with, and you weren't here when they put Burger King in here, and even though I wasn't working in the town at that time, they wanted to string me up because it didn't fit historical downtown. Darn it, these kids need to see something new. And I think it's a little bit different. If we do that, then if we go back and we keep thinking historical all the way down to the river, then what are we going to have down here in the north? What are we going to look down here? I think the amount of time that the Planning and Zoning Commission put in that, I mean, I can live with any of them, it doesn't matter. But I think that myself personally, I'd like to back up the Planning and Zoning Commission on that.
I know they have a combination where when you walk up, it says Town of Florence, as well as the signs that show the street addresses are traditional. And so just changing it up, it doesn't make a difference to me alternatively if we're going to change and add as a combination or just keep it all the same.
I just think if you're driving by, the option 3 is easier to read. You know, if you're walking by, it doesn't matter a whole lot. But if you're driving by, that just tells you immediately what that is. That's the aquatic center. I don't have to look sideways.
And I received a few, calls and some contacts with residents, and I thought that it was ironic that you used the word traditional, because that's how it was explained to me on the phone, was they liked the look of option 3 because it was traditional, and they wanted me to communicate that this evening, and I said I would. And also, from an educator's standpoint, we read from left to right, so think about where our population is. Do we have any English language learners? Absolutely. Would it be more natural for them to read that sign in that direction? Yes.
If we're going back to the historical area, we just go out there and draw a bunch of X's. That's where they used to sign, everybody used to sign their name with an X. I myself, I can live with any of it, but I think that what the Planning and Zoning came up is showing a new portion of town in close proximity to the historical district and just having something a little bit different. And of course, Florence don't like to change. We all know that. Let's keep it old. We need a motion. We've had enough discussion on it.
I'd like to make a motion to affirm the February 5th, 2015 recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the Town of Florence Territory Square signage design review application by approving attached option number 1.
Do I have a second? I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Roll call. I couldn't hear Reuben.
Councilmember Glean?
Aye.
Councilmember Rankin?
Aye.
Councilmember Hawkins?
Aye.
Councilmember Woolridge?
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson?
Nay.
Councilmember Montoya?
Nay.
Vice Mayor Walter,
Nay.
or, I'm sorry. It's all those M's. Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Item C, a resolution number 1498, discussion approval, disapproval of a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, amending the Florence Town Council Rules of Procedure effective May 1st, 2015. Mayor and members of council, if you remember, we had a work session to go over your rules, and we are bringing back to you the policy. After we adopt the policy, the ordinance will be rewritten, and that's why May 1st is the date, so we can adopt them both and have them both be effective at the same time. So what did we do? If you look under 4.1 of the section, we now have regular meetings every month. We no longer go dark in December. Under 4.3, special meetings. We had a council member who asked us how that they were supposed to go about calling a special meeting without violating the open meeting law. We did contact with our attorneys, and our attorneys did come back with a suggestion. So in this particular case, we need council to make a ruling on whether they want option 1, option 2, or another option. Option 1 allows the rules of procedures and the town code to remain the same, with the same meaning that the mayor or the manager may call a special meeting, or a member of council may call for, or a member of council with 2 other council members concurring that the special meeting needs to happen can occur. Option 2 allows for the manager to set a special meeting, or the mayor or any member of council to request the item be placed on an agenda for discussion. At that time, the council member would be able to discuss the item, and if the council voted, would be able to place that item on a future meeting for action. And at that time, a staff report and other documents would be prepared as well. So do you want to talk about that piece, or would you like me to present the whole?
Let's go one at a time
Okay,
on what
sir.
needs to be changed or what wants to be changed. My opinion is that option 1, leave it alone. It's not broke. We don't need to fix it.
Well, as you know, I was the one who had a problem with that, because I think if I have to contact 3 members of the council, I'm violating the Open Meeting Act.
You don't. You vote.
Attorney, can we get a ruling on
Well, you
that?
only need, John, or 3 members of the council. It doesn't say you plus 3 members.
I know, but if I have to start polling members, I'm asking the attorney, will I violate the Open Meeting Act?
Mayor, members of the council, municipalities approach this type of issue in different ways, and you are correct in that we have to be mindful and comply with the open meeting law. There is always a risk when there's more than one council member discussing a potential item with another council member. When you go beyond 2, there is the spoke of the wheel or the chain problem where, if you then start the discussion, it continues on with other people to the point where a quorum is involved, say 4 of the council, then there could be issues with violating the open meeting law. That being said, these options address that issue, and municipalities throughout Arizona do it in different ways. There's a blend of manager approval, manager and mayor approval, manager, mayor, and 1 or 2 or 3 council members. So I don't think any of the alternatives require 3 members to make take action, or I should say more than 3 members to take action. So our quorum is 4. That's a problem. But of course, I do have to tell you, the more members that are involved in any discussion related to any topic that can appear as town business before the council, there is a greater chance of the possibility of an inadvertent violation, not intentional, but inadvertent violation of the open meeting law.
And I see where John says there's a concern, because if is requesting for a meeting or a special meeting or an item be placed on the agenda, then if he asks one individual that doesn't agree, then he has to seek agreement from two more. And now you have 4 council members that have knowledge of it.
And also, I agree as well, and also I'm looking further ahead at the same, where it says 5.1, depending on option 4.3, council could direct this item to be resubmitted. It's really 5.3, and we would also need to look at 7.2 for the executive session because the wording is the same in regards to how items get placed upon the agenda.
I would like to see option 1 be changed to 2 members. So in case somebody doesn't agree, then you're still not violating the open meeting law.
I can live with that.
I could support that as well.
Well, I'm wondering what would be the problem with option 2, letting the council vote on it? Only one member has to bring it up, and then we vote on it to put it on the agenda or the date of when we want to have the special meeting. That way there's no problem at all.
I support that, especially.
Doesn't have a problem there.
The thing I see with option 2 is the length of time involved that may be pertinent on an issue to a certain council person. I think because what you're doing there is asking for it to be placed on the next regular scheduled agenda, if I understand the option right, and at that time it would have to be for asking for a special meeting or a vote date and time of the next meeting, which it could lead on to almost a month, Bill. I guess that's the only thing I can see is a time element involved with that.
Well, we could have an emergency meeting, but what I'm just saying, why not do it, to let 2 or 3 people make that decision. I'm a believer in majority rules,
Mayor?
You go ahead.
Excuse me. Just to follow up on the comments, I apologize for interrupting your discussion, but option 1, one way to go and would seem like a reasonable approach would be instead of having the concurrence of 3 members, change that to the concurrence of 2 members. Just to kind of clarify that.
Well, are they going to be the ones setting the date and the agenda and all that? I mean,
They wouldn't be setting the date. It would be telling staff that, okay, we need for a special meeting, and the staff would be up to staff to set the date up after contacting the council to see what date's available to us, whether it be a Monday or if it's Tuesday or whatever. Lisa?
If you look later, council has said that we're going to meet on any Monday available in the month. So you guys have already told me that that's what you want, and that has been already established by this policy. So we'd be looking towards the next Monday, unless it was
But you
emergency.
usually call the council to make sure that they're going to be available for a meeting,
Definitely, sir.
so that we have a quorum to discuss anything. So we want to change that to 2 members?
2 members.
Yes, 2 members.
I have no problem with it.
I don't have a problem with that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we need a motion.
Well, do you want to go over the rest of the policy?
Yeah, we can do that.
Because that will just be, so what I will do is I will change the ability to call a special meeting, the ability to put something on the agenda. Everything will be the same wording. It will be the manager, the mayor, or 2 members of council have the ability to do these things. It'll be consistent across the board. And then work sessions, as I said, 4.4, we now can have a special meeting or a work session on every Monday, so council has picked their day. If we have to have a special meeting urgently, we will call you and confirm that you can meet on those days. 5.1, again, will be addressed.
And that will also carry over to the section 7 regarding the executive sessions?
And 6.7, most definitely.
Okay.
Item 6.2, regular meeting, we're turning that to a moment of silence instead of an invocation or a prayer. 6.6, we remove the need to ask for an excuse. Any member who's not present will just be listed as either here or absent. Item 6.7, action items. It changes the time frame providing notice for the public to request to be on an agenda from 7 to 10 days. And council packets. It's made consistent throughout the packet to say that we will provide the council their packets by Thursday prior to the meeting, and it changes the notice for publicly posting the agendas to be, we will not post, it'll be 24 hours prior to the meeting, which is with law, but your packets will go out on Thursday. And it does say wording that we will make every effort possible to get those packets out by Thursday, because sometimes it is going to happen on Friday. And that is our presentation. That is the way that we've modified this. We can do one of two things. We can either make those changes, bring it back to council, and allow you to vote for it with changes, or we can go ahead and approve it knowing that those modifications are going to occur. It's entirely up to the council how they'd like to proceed.
I think a motion be I think if we just went and added or made the one change, adopt the resolution with the one change, don't have to bring it back again, we'll be saving time.
I agree. I have some.
Go ahead, Bill.
Discussion on 6.6, the roll call attendance.
Yes, sir.
Now, are we, the way I read it, let's see. First, are we going to, back in the information, 6.6 says roll call attendance, the presiding officer shall direct the town clerk to call the roll, and the names of council members, both present and absent, shall be entered into the minutes. Are we going to do away with that?
No, sir. That's required by underneath the open meeting law. The only part that we did away with was the fact that they need to be either labeled excused or not excused. In some meetings it's discussed and it said this person is excused. In other meetings we don't touch it. It just, you call roll and we just move on by. So in the record what it looks like is some absences are excused and some absences are not excused. The only thing we're required to do is say who's present, and that's what we want to do. We want to say which council members are here, which council members are not here, and make sure that we're reporting consistently.
No.
So the part that was removed from that section was that if you go back to the code book, the part that remains in the code book is the part that says that we will call roll and then members will be excused. And so there needs to be either a motion to excuse or the mayor needs to make a comment that they're excused. But that's not a requirement to track excused versus non-excused absences. So what we're saying is pursuant to the open meeting law, we are going to track whether you are who's present at the meeting and who's not present at the meeting. That's the only thing that's occurring.
Okay, we're not going to, I mean, are you going to state why they were?
No, sir, we will not state why they're not here. We're just going to call roll, and if they're not in their seat, then they'll be marked absent.
So every meeting that somebody's not here, we're going to vote to excuse them or not excuse them?
No, sir, that's being removed. They're just going to be marked absent.
Oh, okay, all right, well then now I got you, okay, all right.
Councils in the past have used that. Back in the old days, we said excuse all the time. My deal there, why are they excused if there's no way that the council has anything to reinforce if they miss 3 or 4 meetings?
Right, no, that's, I was just trying to clarify what, because it, I don't know.
Yeah, so taking, just showing that they're here, present or not present, you know, that's all we need to do on that. We don't need to excuse. They used excuses for if people who had a death in the family, they were in the hospital, they were out of town on vacation, or if their toenail hurt.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 1498-15 with modifications.
Second.
We have a motion second to adopt resolution get to it, I forgot it.
149815.
Resolution 1498-15, I'm gonna throw this mic at somebody with the correction. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Item D, resolution number 149915, discussion approval, disapproval of a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, establishing regular meeting dates and times for town boards and commissions. Mayor, member council, this is something that we routinely do, is go in and adopt a resolution that states the dates and times of our board and commissions meet. If you notice, they all start at 6 o'clock, same time as the town council starts. If there's something happening in Florence, we want them to know what time and where to go. This agenda, this resolution is posted not only on our town website, but it is posted at your places of posting agendas so that people can go to the kiosks and look and see if there's something happening that they may be interested in attending. Does anyone have any questions at this time? Oh, and you'll notice we did remove the redevelopment commission from the notices.
Were the boards and commission, thanks, Dan. Were they, question about if these favored to their schedules and everything?
Board and commissions liaisons were given the notification to look at. There was one board who wanted to do 5:30, but it has traditionally been the town council's theory that if you have one set date, then what people have to remember is what day that people meet on, not what time. So we have not had the variation of time saying someone meets at 5, someone meets at 5:30, someone meets at 6, someone meets at 7. Everyone meets at 6 o'clock.
Okay. Any other discussion? Need a motion?
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 1449-15.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 1449-15. Any other discussion?
1499, just for correction.
1449.
99.
It has both.
It has both on it. Which one is it?
1499.
It's 1499.
Okay. I will amend my motion then to 1499-15.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution and amend it to adopt resolution 1499-15. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item E, discussion approval, disapproval of the May 19, 2015 special election information presentation as presented today. Staff just wants to make sure that we have council's blessing in going out and giving this presentation. No one did request any information to be changed. We are going to be adding the information about the importance of that the town of Florence has never exceeded our expenditure limitation. And so that will be added to our presentation.
Are these meetings going to be on the website? The dates and locations?
It's interesting because we can put them on the website, but some of the hard part about it is that when we go and we speak at these places, some of the meetings are for membership meetings. So when we go and we speak to the members of these associations, they're truly not public meetings open to the public. They are meetings that we're going to speak at for the memberships. But we do have meetings that are scheduled just for the public. If you look at the information calendar that is attached to that item, there are dates where we are going to have a meeting in Town Hall just for this purpose. We're going to get out press releases and invite everyone. The lovely lady that came up and spoke to Town Council for the first time that resides in the apartment complex, I did contact her and ask her to give me her number, so maybe we could go to the apartment complexes and set up a meeting date and time to where we can reach out to them as well. We're interested in finding any way possible to reach the citizens to allow them to have this information prior to the election.
Well, would it hurt to have the newspaper, you know, these yellow on that sheet.
Oh, yes, most definitely,
Maybe
sir.
let them, even though some of the meetings are private clubs,
Yeah.
at least maybe some of the club members, they might not know about it,
Oh, we'd be happy to do that, sir.
the paper, they would, maybe.
I'll work with our PIO officer, Jessica Knudsen, to make sure that we get out those schedules.
The Florence Unified School District, is that an open meeting?
That is an open meeting, sir.
Any other discussion? Need a motion?
I'd like to approve the May 19th, 2015 special election informational presentation as presented and modified if applicable in the March 2nd, 2015 council work session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, department reports. Department heads are here. Wayne, good to see you back, buddy. Glad you're with us again tonight. Do you have anything to report? Okay. Any council member have any questions of any of the department heads that are present?
No.
Hearing none, we'll go second call to the public. Anybody in the public, the same qualifications as the first call to the public? Anybody else have anything they'd like to say? Hurry up. You and Denise. And Ruth. I forgot all three of you. No, I just,
Oh, okay. I didn't get to the other part of this, so I want to bring it up, and thank you very much for what you said. I am a
make sure and speak into your mic, please.
My name is Deborah Croft, and I live in the apartment off of Stewart. Thank you. And it's about our transportation in town. The issue that we have is we don't have anybody to pick us up to take us anywhere. We have a brand-new library and a pool and up here and the park that has things going on. And now, I guess, maybe the senior center is not going to have the bus stop there. The only place we can pick it up is at the courthouse, the new courthouse. And that's not good enough for the people that live here all the time. And we can't get around. We can't do anything. The 100 degrees, the outlet that I have is going up to the public library. And in the summertime when it's 100 degrees, it's hard to walk that far in that heat. So I want to look at better bus service in this town. And first I want to go after free bus. And then you can decide what we pay to get on it. I want it down by DeSoto and Stewart. I'd like it at the park in Stewart, South DeSoto and Florence Heights, which is at the other end of our complex, down at the Florence Heights apartments. And we just need to have access. There's no use in building us a new library when we can't get any access to it. I have asked to volunteer for the library, and I think there's going to be some great use in that with the new library, that people need to get involved in it. And if I can't get there, then what good is it? An empty library is a dead library. These kids have to have somewhere to go in the summer to read and continue to read. We have reading programs that the library does, and kids don't do it. They don't do their little book reports and the cute ideas that the librarian gives out because it's too hot. And if we can't get kids and the adults in this town to do something, then it just goes, it's a waste of money. And if I can't swim in the new pool, then, I'm not supporting what we did in this town at all. We need to be able to get down to Heritage Park, the 4th of July, the new shop's going to be opening in our new area over here with the pool and the library. And we want some of these buses to be able to take us to Walmart, to the doctor's offices in Coolidge, restaurants and churches over there. And we also would like some of these buses to be able to take us to Casa Grande. You know, it's nice to go to a movie and a dinner once in a while with a group of friends, and you can't do that unless you have an automobile. And if you don't have an automobile, then our town has done nothing to help us get out there and do anything. So, work on our transportation, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Jess, maybe you can make some sort of presentation in the near future on public transportation in Florence. Denise?
Since you decided to take my name in vain, I thought I'd come back up again.
Was not in vain.
I just wanted to say I went to the music Thursday night at the park, and even though I chickened out 20 minutes before they quit, because I was cold, it was wonderful. If you haven't gone to hear the music there, go. It's great. They started at 6, and the band they had the other night never even took a break. They played the whole 2 hours, and they were very good. They played a lot of different kinds of music. One group that's coming, the dueling piano guys, they're great. We've seen them in Casa Grande. But please come out and support the music in the park. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public? Hearing none, I'll close call of the public. Call of the council. Becky?
I don't have anything.
Bill?
I have nothing.
Valerie?
I don't have anything tonight.
John?
Yes. I attended the meeting at the Florence Gardens Saturday morning, and I want to thank the people in Florence Gardens. They're always so nice to us when we go up there, and I appreciate their questions, their participation. I want to encourage the other council members to attend these meetings because the people really appreciate us being there. And I think that's going to help our cause. You know, we're the ones that are going to have to sell it.
That's it.
And so I think we need to get behind these meetings. Thank you.
Ruben?
One of the things I'd like to bring up, and I've seen it on social media for Facebook, is the repairs we're doing on the curve. I noticed that it's been posted on there. People are saying about time they're starting to work on the construction or the repair of the street that goes around there. And I don't know if they were talking about the county side or Florence's side. We're working on ours now, right?
It's done now.
So that's one thing that came out like probably Monday of last week that people were saying, hey, they're glad to see that it's being repaired. So news travels fast, you know, when they see that we're doing things. I like the way that the work's coming along on the streets by the high school. I've walked around that area a few times, and I could see there is a big drop with the crown on that street, so it'll be a good improvement to see it leveled back down. So,
Yeah.
Deborah, welcome to your first council meeting. I appreciate the fact that you brought up transportation. It's been something that I've been working with Jess on for about 2 years now. And now that more people are coming out and hopefully more come and speak, to us, we need to get that transportation from all areas of town, from all parts of the core of Florence, from Florence Gardens to Caliente to Anthem, especially now that we're having a hub in the community that we want to bring everybody together. So it's important that we're looking at that. Jess, I look forward to your presentation.
Just one thing, Historical Society's having a yard sale up there. Anytime if you haven't been to the Historical Society's yard sale, you can pick up some pretty neat old stuff. Also, the LMB, keep watching the paper. I understand the LMB is going to be having a Winter Visitors Day with special discounts to all the winter visitors that are still here. It'll be coming up this month. So seniors, if you're over my age or older, you're going to be able to take a discount up there on special items. Also, I think we got a fishing derby coming up Saturday night, don't we? Saturday during the day. And, so make sure all the kids, come out with your fishing poles and if not, we're gonna have poles available again, or we'll have poles and bait down there to catch those catfish that we're gonna throw in there. And it should be about 75, 78 degrees by Saturday, even though it's in the 40s tonight. One thing I would like to mention, well, I attended the legislation day for CAG on Tuesday of this week. There is one bill in there that's very important to the town, and that was put in by Senator McGuire, who I have not had a chance to talk to her about it. It changed one word in the law, and that's over incorporation rules. That one word was "or," little two-letter word. That one little two-letter word, if it goes through the legislature, could cost the town of Florence, if it was to pass, and Santan was trying to incorporate in a smaller scale or incorporate to what they have, it could cost us over $1 million a year. All the municipalities in Pinal County would lose. So if you have any question about it, Jess has got the bill at his office. You can ask me about it. But we need to contact Senator McGuire and tell her to kill her own bill, that it's bad for the incorporated communities of Pinal County at this time. Every town in the county will lose money if that passes. I hope it doesn't, but we know that the league's fighting it, Yuma County's fighting it, along with us. So that's where we're at on that. Other than that, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Oh,
Who seconded? Okay. We have a motion and second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned.